So we're going to do things a little bit differently from how we normally do in a pro workshop. So rather than being a primarily product-focused pro workshop, this one is really going to be focused on selling. So we're going to give you some selling tips that will hopefully make you more successful in your efforts to sell renewable products. So let's start out right away with, what are renewables, right? A lot of times when you think about renewables, you might think about a solar field. You might think about a wind farm. You might think about battery energy storage. These are, energy sources that are obviously renewable, sustainable, not limited like petroleum sources or coal sources. When we think about light efficient design, we have two areas that we group into renewables. That would be our solar lighting products, and then of course our Breeze EV charging equipment. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about both of these and give you some, tips and tricks for where you can go to identify opportunities. What does the market look like? What's driving the market? And then go through some sample projects. So starting out with Solera, the solar lighting market is a very, very large market globally, and it's even large in the U.S. It's about a $1.8 billion market in the U.S., growing very, very quickly at a rate of 14% per year between the years of 2024 and 2030. Some of the things that are driving that growth is first off, concerns about the reliability of our very, very strained energy grid. There are areas of the country where the grid is not very reliable, and so they're looking for more sustainable sources of energy for lighting projects. Solar products can reduce the installation cost on new construction and on parks and rec type applications because it eliminates the need to trench and pull conduit and pull wire to each individual pole location. It also helps make better use of your skilled labor because since solar products are self-contained low voltage DC, you don't necessarily need to be an electrician to install it. So folks like municipal customers can use just their municipal field workers to do installs versus having to have a licensed electrician. So it can help save on installation costs that way. And it can also help with communities that are dealing with copper theft. If you read the news articles around the country, there are lots of areas where copper theft is a big problem, causing streetlights to go dark, and solar lighting can certainly help in those areas as well. When you look at, again, just wanted to bring up a couple of news stories. We talked about reliability of the power grid. It's not just weather events that cause the grid to go down. Sometimes actual utility maintenance has forced blackouts and brownouts. In North Carolina a couple of years ago, there was some bad actors that were shooting out utility transformers and causing large power outages. And some of these lasted for days and days. And as I mentioned, copper theft is an increasing problem in municipalities all across the country. Typical applications where you're going to see solar products used, oftentimes it's going to be in a parking lot. But as Doug mentioned, parks and rec is a very, very large portion of our sales and of your opportunities. Billboards and signs, transportation shelters, even site lighting for new construction projects. Solar is an excellent tool to use in those situations. So where can you go to look for these opportunities? Well, obviously that Parks and Rec department or your Public Works department of your local municipality, but multifamily project developers and residential developments are a great place to go. School districts, commercial property developers, Public Works departments, and again, of course, ESCOs that are serving any of these customers are good targets to go after to identify opportunities. Let's go through like a sample project here, right? So how can you use solar in a new construction project? Here's an example of a VA outpatient clinic. This was built in Ocala, Florida, about 3 years ago. And in working with the GC that was constructing this project, we talked to them about, so for your parking lot lighting, there's a couple different ways you can go, right? You can obviously go the traditional route and, pull wire and pull conduit and trench to each of the individual pole locations. National average, the cost to trench and pull wire to a new pole location is between $55 and $70 per foot. So if you think about, a couple thousand feet of having to do trenching, you can get into the couple $100,000 range before you've even put in a single fixture. In this particular example, the comparison between the traditional on-grid fixtures versus solar fixtures are obviously much more expensive because there are more components to them, but eliminating that need for trenching can have some benefit. So after going through a lighting layout, we showed them that if they use traditional fixtures, they would need about 41 of them to complete this project. With solar, because the light output was a little bit lower using the solar product, we needed more poles. But when you compare the overall installation cost, $294,000 for traditional grid fixtures versus about 120 or so thousand dollars using the solar fixtures, tremendous savings on the install. From an operating cost perspective, their operating cost to light that parking lot goes from, about $4,000 a year to zero. And then they were also able to take advantage of the ITC tax credit, which offset 30% of the cost of installation. So net a savings of about $200,000 to the builder on this particular new construction project. Here's an example of an HOA application. We are not at liberty to share the name of the HOA because they didn't give us permission to use it, but this was in Lake County, Florida, and they were leasing their poles from a utility. The cost to lease those poles was about $70 a month. They had 188 poles in their development. So they're paying $158, almost $1,000 a year to light the streets within this particular HOA. Going to a solar option, 188 poles, it was about $3,300 per pole to do the installation, so $618,000. Again, significantly more expensive, but when you look at it over a 20-year term, there's a savings of about $2.5 million there for that HOA. So now they have that funding available to do, other maintenance and other improvements, maybe add a park, maybe do something else in that particular application. Here's an example of where we used solar lighting in the site lighting for new construction. So this was an Amazon warehouse built outside of Dallas, Texas. They used our 30-watt and 50-watt OG products to light the site during the construction phase. But then after they completed the construction and moved the tenant in, they repurposed those solar lights to be the area lighting for their parking lot as well. So again, another great way to identify an opportunity and use this product to their advantage. And then the last kind of sample project that I want to talk about is a Parks and Rec project that we did in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. And this is a great one to also dispel the myth that, hey, solar only works in the south where you have abundant sunshine, where it's warm and you can keep the batteries warm. We have products that work in all climates, that can work in very, very northern tiers of the country. Sudbury is about 4 hours north of Toronto, Canada. So we're getting very, very up there towards the Arctic Circle. By designing the project appropriately, utilizing the capabilities of a solar fixture to bi-level dim, to make use of a motion sensor so we're only providing light when it's needed. We can certainly use solar products in very cold temperature and very northern applications as well. Doug mentioned our new website. Lots and lots of material is available there to help you in your selling efforts, from the product information to the example projects, success stories. And within each product page, you can also get access to IES files to help you do your lighting designs. You can get access to spec sheets, installation guides. All of the tools that you need to be successful in selling solar products are there on our website. I'm going to move over now to Breeze EV and talk a little bit longer about what's going on in the EV charging market. There's lots and lots of trends that are impacting EV charging today. The largest of which is just there is increasing consumer demand for electric vehicles. In 2024, for the first time, electric vehicles made up over 20% of the total new vehicle registrations, either purchased or leased across the country. And that percentage has been increasing year over year for the last several years. Another trend that's driving this is the electrification of fleets. So whether they're municipal fleets, whether they're school district fleets, whether they're commercial fleets like Uber and Lyft is electrifying a large portion of their commercial fleet. because it just provides so much benefit to their drivers and reduces the impact of, their fleets on the environment. Lots of building code requirements are now requiring EV charging to be included in new construction, especially in multifamily and office situations. So, you want to check with your local municipality to see what codes are in place in the areas where you work. And then another thing that is a negative driving some of the EV charging is the uncertainty of what's happening with public funding. With the change in administration, we've seen a pause put on the NEVI funding, which was funding DC fast charging along interstate corridors. Some states have put a pause on the funding of EV charging deployment within their state, but other states are increasing their funding to make up for what the federal government has taken away. And we're seeing more and more utility programs come online in order to help drive adoption of EV charging in specific regions. So there's a couple different kinds of EV charging that exist in the marketplace today. I just wanted to go through some of these differences. So level 1 charging is what is normally included with a car if you buy an electric vehicle from one of the dealers. It is really nothing more than an extension cord. It's designed to work on 120 volt, household 15 or 20 amp power. It delivers essentially a trickle charge to the battery. So it's only charging, it's adding about 3 to 5 miles of distance on the battery for each hour of charge. Breeze EV does not play in the level 1 space. Where we play is in level 2 and level 3. A level 2 charger is a 240 volt, typically anywhere from 16 amp to 48 amp to up to about 80 amps is about the largest level 2 that you can find these days. So that equates to power outputs of between 3 and about 19 kilowatts of power. And that's delivering typically somewhere between 20 and 50 to 60 miles of range per hour of charge. And then level 3 is what we refer to as DC fast charging. DC fast charging is 480 volt 3-phase input. So this is more of a commercial, industrial, public application, and it's designed more for on-the-go charging. So it's where a vehicle is expecting to pull in and have sort of a gas station-like experience, right? And that's adding anywhere from 60 to 100 miles of range, usually within about 30 to 40 minutes. So as we look at the landscape of EV chargers that are being installed, in 2024, we had year-over-year increase of about 36% in level 2. We had a year-over-year increase of about 23% in level 3. But as you can see by the numbers, the bars on this chart, the gray bars are level 2 and the blue bars are level 3. The number of level 2 chargers that is installed was vastly outweighed the number of level 3 ports that were installed. So that's where the majority of the volume is being installed across America today. And when we dig a little bit deeper into those level 2 installs, about half of the overall installs in 2024 were in multifamily applications, your apartment complexes, your condo complexes. And we expect that trend to continue in 2025 and 2026. So there will be somewhere on the order of 20 to 25,000 new only multifamily ports installed in 2025 and between 30 and 35,000 in 2026. So that's a logical target for you to go after when you're selling EV charging in your markets. So why are multifamily and why are hospitality and why are office parks installing EV charging? Well, the answer is pretty simple. EV chargers attract clients. EV owners tend to be higher income. They tend to be more loyal to brands. They tend to be more adventurous. And so if you have EV charging available at your location, you're attracting a higher quality of client to your location. For retail stores, we've seen that when EV chargers are installed around a retail store, that sales in that area increase by about 2.5% to 3% year over year just from having EV charging available. Multifamily occupancy rates increase by 4 to 5% for those facilities that offer EV charging versus those that don't. In hospitality, 82% of EV owners say they will search for hotels that offer EV charging versus those that don't. So those hotels and those motels that don't choose to offer EV charging are really prohibiting themselves from taking advantage of these higher quality clients. But most importantly, EV charging can be a revenue generator. It's an amenity in many situations, but it can also be a revenue generator for those that install it. How are we generating revenue? Well, because the national average of what EV charger operators charge to the driver is about 54 cents per kilowatt hour. And you can see that across the country, that ranges from, low of about 40 to 42 cents to highs in the 60-cent range, but national average, 54 cents per kilowatt hour. If your cost for that kilowatt hour is 14, 15, 16, 17 cents, maybe with a demand charge, it might get as high as 20. You can see there's a large margin available. And there are multiple companies out there that are investing in just building out EV infrastructure similar to gas stations. Iona, Rove, Shell Rechargery, lots of Francis Energy, lots of different companies that are building business models around only offering EV charging and associated amenities. So again, we talked about where do you go to look for opportunities. The biggest one is really going to be that multifamily segment. That's where a large proportion of the new chargers are being installed. But then office buildings, retail shopping centers, fleets, both public and private. So it could be your local municipal fleet, could be your school district fleet, or it could be someone like Hertz, Avis, Uber, Lyft. You get the idea. One tool that we provide on our website that will help you to demonstrate to your customers how they can benefit from EV charging is to use our revenue calculator and our ROI calculator that's available on the website. By inputting some basic information about how many chargers they have on site, what price they're going to charge the drivers, what the cost of the energy is, we can very, very quickly demonstrate, what the total expected revenue would be from that charging station, and then balance that off against the cost to generate an ROI. So how do you choose the right charger for the situation or for the customer that you're talking to? I'm going to introduce you to a new term that we call the dwell time. So what you want to do is try to match the charger to the amount of time that you expect the car to be in that location in normal use. So as an example, for multifamily or for workplace charging, you expect that, you're going to park your car overnight at your apartment or your condo, or you're going to drive your car to work and you're going to be there for 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 hours, depending on how long your workday is, right? So the dwell time of that vehicle is extended. That's where level 2 charging makes lots and lots of sense because you expect the vehicle to be there for a fair amount of time. It would be silly to put in a DC fast charger because the car will be finished charging in 30 minutes, but it's going to be parked in that spot for another 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 hours, right? So multifamily applications, office buildings, hospitality, all these areas where you expect the dwell time of the vehicle to be extended, that's where it makes sense to do level 2 charging. For level 3, this is what we typically call on-the-go charging. So you would install level 3 chargers in areas where you would expect the car to be for a shorter period of time. So convenience stores, quick service restaurants, fast food restaurants, roadway rest areas, and along highway interstates, and then high use fleets, right? So your Uber Lyft, where you're expecting that driver to come in, pull in, and just get a quick additional 20, 30 minutes of range and then pull out to keep their business going. So these are areas where you would use level 3 as fast charging. Again, Doug mentioned our website. Tons and tons of resources available on the website to help you learn more about the product offerings that we have that fill the needs of each of these applications for both level 2 and level 3. Again, that contractor's resource guide is a really, really helpful tool. How do I do a site visit? How do I ensure that the electrical infrastructure is sufficient? How do I ensure that we have good cell service? If I'm looking for available incentives, how do I figure out which incentives are available that will help me offset the cost of that install? All of that information is available on our website free of charge. Now, pulling it all together, one of the reasons why you would want to do business with Light Efficient Design that has multiple offerings versus being just an EV charger company or just a lighting company is now we can bring these solutions together to provide unique value propositions to a customer. So let's think about EV charging, right? So EV charging is a significant power draw. We might be drawing 80 amps, 100 amps, 200 amps, 300 amps off of the existing power supply. What happens when you get to that office building or you get to that restaurant parking lot and you only have maybe 60 amps available? You maybe only have, one tap off of that transformer that's available. By combining the Solaris solar lighting with EV charging, we can increase the amount of power that is available for the charger. We will take their parking lot lighting off grid, take those lighting circuits off of that panel board, and now you have additional space to install EV charging. So it's one of the ways that we offer something different that allows you to be more successful as you go after the business in these different customer types. So hopefully you've learned a couple of tips and tricks to identify opportunities, to increase your ability to confidently sell the product, and to be successful with your customer base.